It's now to discuss in an exclusive interview Alan Patricof, Chairman of Greycroft and co-founder of Primetime Partners. Alan, very good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Wanted to obviously kick off on these Verizon assets and their sale to Apollo. Two parts of the question. Do you think it's a good deal? And why have telecoms companies had such a sort of poor track record when it comes to executing in this sort of area?
Well, I first want to give you some perspective, a quick perspective. When you think about the fact that I started AOL in the 1980s when we put in $1 million or $2 million, and it ended up getting sold to AT&T for $156 billion, if you recall, and then Verizon picks it up for the price, what, $9 billion, and now what a cycle in American stock history. I think Verizon made a very good sale, and I think Apollo made an excellent buy. I think investors are down on media as an area for investors. They're all focused on tech and computers and cybersecurity, and media has kind of been left behind. I think that Verizon just felt they needed to rationalize their business. I think Yahoo is a fabulous property. I've felt this way for years. Yahoo Finance, Yahoo Sports, the potential for betting, it's never been fully realized. And so I think Apollo is making an intelligent decision at a very reasonable price for what they're buying. Remember that, you look at what did the combined companies made $2 billion in revenues in the first quarter? So they're buying it at a very reasonable price. Verizon's keeping 10%, so they don't look like they're idiots if they sold it, and Apollo makes a big win out of it, so they'll get an extra bonus. I think it's the natural evolution. Telecom companies have tried to buy these companies, have bought them, and they sooner or later they just can't rationalize them. The cultures just don't work. I mean, that's really what it gets down to. And in the Apollo environment, I think they'll probably do very well.
Mm-hmm. Alan, pivoting to more broadly what's going on in the market space. I mean, clearly tech has been on a tear in recent decades, not just years. Do you think the proposed increases in capital gains taxes will lead to a lot of forced selling?
I don't think so. And as you may know, I'm a big supporter of the change in the tax rates. I think that capital gains have been vastly overstated. And by the way, I'm a number one victim of a raise in capital gains rates, because that's what I invest in companies to make capital gains. But I think that we're seeing a kind of topsy-turvy shift in government philosophy, which is the president was saying that people who work hard and earn money are entitled to do equal to what people are who are making money with their putting their capital to work. The original purpose of capital gains was to give an incentive to put money to work, and it was because it was just to bring some differential between it. I think we're at a stage now where the country needs to have more income. I believe that government has done a good job. I mean, look at COVID. If without government and the vaccines, it never would have happened independently. I think they're mobilizing infrastructure. They want to mobilize health. They want to do a lot of things that are very constructive for all of us. And it's going to take more money, and the people at the top can afford it. Interesting things. I have a lot of friends who are all in this bracket that are going to get hit, and there are very few people who are feeling they've been cheated or hurt or taken advantage of. They all feel that there's some need to improve this situation of income disparity, and if capital gains is one of the issues. I'm not saying the rates that they picked are the right. There should be a differential. Maybe there should be some incentive for holding longer. But these things are set by government policy, and the government is now taking an attitude that investing capital at the moment is less important than rewarding people who have been disadvantaged. And I think that's the period we're going into now. Will it change again? Possibly. But right now, I think removing this, not removing, but eliminating, making the differential smaller I think is a constructive move.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.